This is AV SuperFriends Off the Rails, an almost regularly scheduled open discussion on audio and video in higher education. We'll sound off about our most brilliant ideas, our dumbest mistakes, and everything in between. And because this conversation will almost certainly go off the rails at some point, we'll end up covering just about everything else. And now, the AV SuperFriends. For November 8th, 2024, it's the best sounding podcast in higher ed. This is the AV SuperFriends Off the Rails number 98. 2 more to go and we're done.
That's it.
So get your requests in. 2 more.
That's all we were paid to do. That's all we're doing.
That's
broadcasting live across 4 times. Oh, wait, technically, let's see. Wait. Yeah, I guess technically Larry's still here.
Does it change with them to fall back?
No, I'm just mean because he's hiding.
So, yeah, well, he's here in spirit always.
He's East Coast. Justin's on East Coast. You're Central.
I'm with Jamie.
Okay. Backing up. Broadcasting live across 3 time zones with a secret 4th time zone hiding downstairs. From coast to coast, not really anywhere. Damn, this screws the whole thing up. Easternmost, westernmost, northernmost, southernmost, gatepost, hitchmost, some of your locals can boast the most smoke, doesn't up as humility. I'm Chris Dechter, and it's time for another Friday afternoon podcast adventure. There we go. That's the worst intro we've ever done. Hold on. I'm going to change this thing now, too.
I'm taking it.
I'm going to cross this one out. Third worst. What, are you keeping track?
Yeah.
All right. Delete this one and delete this one. Okay, so let's say hello to today's panel of august AV SuperFriends. I'm joined by a national configuration producer from Kansas City. Let's say hello to Jamie Reinhardt.
I produce configs like nobody else.
I believe it.
I guess, yes. Also joined by a regional resonance strategist from Corvallis, Oregon. Say hello to Mark Kolowazinski.
Yeah, you can hear these different resonant tones locally, like in my room here, but you all will never hear them. So.
And joined by our Vice President for National Operations, that almost sounds like a real title, from Bowling Green, Kentucky, Justin Rexing.
That's right. Give me my damn job back right now. Stop demoting me.
So upset about that junior Vice President.
This one has a lot more deliverables in the last few, though. So
yeah, does it, though?
So on today's show, we're going to discuss AV over IP encoders specifically, and also going to just one aspect of encoders. You'll understand here in a few minutes.
Yes.
We're going to discuss sunk cost fallacy in regards to repurposing AV to stuff that you already have. But first, let's do some housekeeping. So those of you listening to this in your cars later, if you're listening to this as recorded MP3, we stream live on Friday afternoons at about 3:30 Eastern, 12:30 Pacific, or whenever Mark shows up. Though today it was actually Justin running late. But usually one of us is running late, and so we can't start like at a time, but it's in that like 3:15 to 3:30-ish time frame, or 12:15, 12:30 Pacific.
We're late.
Those of you in the weird time zones, do your math.
I'm over here just catching strays.
Yes. You can join us live on Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube. And when I remember to turn it on, which I forgot again today, we can take your calls live. So I have to start that before we start recording. So,
if you want to call in, text us. And
we're going to try to make that a thing.
Here.
So,
yeah.
If you can't join us live, we'd love for you to connect with us on the socials anyway. Follow us on Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube, and you can keep up with the latest updates and news and whatever nonsense we're posting there. So, this week was nonstop political talk. So. Please join us there for our hot political talk
before we went live, so we are ready and primed.
Please spread the word about the show. Please share this podcast with your friends, colleagues, enemies, perfect strangers, anyone else who might enjoy it. If you could hold people down at the bank and take their phone from them and subscribe them for us, that would be great.
If you're on the border with the surge of people leaving the country, have them also subscribe to the show.
We are international.
Yes, so we can get our international numbers up.
We're worldwide. And if you want to support the show, please consider donating. Your contributions help keep us bringing you the honest content that you love or that you love to hate. You can find a donation link in the show notes to this very episode or on our website right at the top or at the bottom or on the side.
Did you say honest?
Yes.
Okay.
Do you object?
I'm not sure what show you've been listening to, but we are nothing if not honest.
Making sure.
And if you want to reach out, we'd like to hear from you if there's a topic you'd like us to cover. If you want to yell at us or if you want to tell us why Justin should be wearing pants on these recordings, even though he's sitting down, please hit us up at mailbag@avsuperfriends.com or on Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, etc. So
I got shorts on.
As far as we know.
Sure you do. Mm-hmm. Sure you do.
Video show now. So, so thanks everyone for your support. We could not do this without you, and you are the reason why we keep doing this. That's not entirely true. We do it anyway. But,
damn it.
What? So, all right.
Sharpies.
So now you've waited all week for it. Here's the news.
Yeah.
And today's news comes to us from, where are we getting this news from? This is Mark's link. We got it from 9 to 5 Mac.
Jax, this came from
Trusted.
you.
Oh.
Jax
News
gave me
source.
this link.
This came
Very
from Mark's Goon Squad. To be fair, I did see this story a few days earlier as it floated past on the RSS feeds. Remember those? Yeah, some of us still use them. But the headline is not the story. So the headline is
Not at all.
TV OS 18.2 adds support for 21:9 to the Apple TV. No one cares. Most importantly, though, and I guess there's probably a way we can actually share this image, can't we? How do we do that if we're clever about this?
We have all
Through
kinds of stuff.
technology.
We have technology. Share tab. This go. Didn't work. Wait. Magic.
Bang,
there we
there
are.
it is.
Note of course the appropriate one true aspect ratio is. Can I make that bigger? Can I embiggen this? No.
I have to
Big-
make it bigger on my
Yeah,
end.
there you go.
in it.
There it is.
The
There-
one
there
true
it is.
aspect ratio is at the top. 21:9,
4K.
which is the pretender to the throne, is below us. There's
it's not.
several different versions of 21:9, but way down there at the bottom is our
32
second
number.
second favorite aspect
the
ratio.
two correct aspects are the top and the bottom.
32:9.
So you take 32 divided by 2 equals what? 16.
I'm pretty sure that's 16, Justin.
So that's a standard format. So that's good.
You got it.
Yes.
The future does suck.
Well,
Did we say that, or did somebody else say that to
So
us?
that is our
there's a-
commentary from live listeners. Appreciate that.
Oh, okay.
So it's just interesting to point out that all the headlines are related to 21:9 because that is the new hotness for ultra-wide monitors. It is the wrong aspect ratio to be deploying in your spaces because none of your displays actually support it. Yes, someone's out there yelling right now because they have a video processor on their video wall that does that. Okay, fine. Your display supports that. No one else does. No, we're not buying Jupiter displays for all our classrooms, and all the projectors and displays that say they do 21:9 are simply stealing pixels from you, and you're not getting those back. So
That is actually true.
that is correct.
By the
yes.
way.
Ask the manufacturers; they'll tell you.
they're pocketing the difference.
They're
making
keeping
out.
those pixels and they're selling them to China. So,
They're just refurbing them, putting them in other projectors.
but way down there at the bottom is the 32:9 with the second true aspect ratio because, as Justin pointed out, it's just the one true aspect ratio twice.
It's actually the one that I get asked about more often. Nobody really asks me about the 21:9 thing. People do ask, I want to do the ultra wide 2 16:9 images. And this is the first foray I've seen people actually like seeing this in a product that actually is out there. I'm like, well,
Now, I know
good.
Larry has done 32:9. I've done 32:9. Has anyone else done 32:9 displays in your learning spaces?
An actual display that is 32:9?
No.
Like we've
One
done a display
single?
area that is like 2
Correct.
16:9.
A 32:9
side by side, yes.
canvas of some sort.
You mean a dual screen system?
Potentially.
Could be one screen, but dual
Could it?
projectors.
Can it?
How would you do this?
If only
one
there were
source?
technologies that would blend these things
Here's
and
what you
make
do:
them.
you just put a DA on the. back of
No,
that
that's
Mac.
not the right answer.
Nope. Wrong.
That doesn't work like that. Just put DA. The new DAs are the.
So
new
the nice thing
hotness.
about 32:9, to your point about Jamie, you mentioned 2 screens, and we have a lot of rooms. All of us who have a lot of rooms who have just 2 projection screens or 2 big monitors at the front of the room. The old people plus content model, or I'm going to show 2 different pieces of content at once. If you crunch those together a little bit into a single unbroken 32:9 canvas, then yes, you get best of both worlds. You can spread content across both. You don't have to worry about the mullions right in the middle of your displays. So there's lots of advantages to it. But most importantly, the 2 content fields you're driving to there are true 16:9, which means all your stuff already works for that and matches all of your built-in LCD and LED displays. So,
Yeah, I think that we're overlooking in this article and this announcement, the biggest part of it was that it wasn't the Apple TV. It was the fact they brought all these resolutions to the Vision goggles. So
Did they really?
had to
I
use
missed
the
that.
Apple TV too. Yeah. So
why
in
not?
that iOS
so both of the
update-
people who own those goggles can use that.
Well, yeah, and you can now buy a new strap so that it doesn't weigh down on your head as much. I saw some big, like, what's
important.
new from the fruit stand, email or something, and with all the computers they announced. But that those were all in there, and I think that we're doing a disservice to our clients if we don't talk about the resolution of the goggles.
We love our goggles.
I
I
think
do
Jamie
also.
used to stick to his fruit stands.
Hey, that's important news. Fruit stand news.
Fruit
I do
stand
like to point
news.
out that the aspect ratio is listed here around 21:9. It's 21:9. Right below it is
Around it.
237, 239, 240 to 1. 21 by 9, if you haven't done the math, is 233 to 1. So somebody clearly, when they went through the effort to set up the scaling engine for this, they're like, screw it. They threw all the variations in there, which means as you're playing movies on your Apple TV, which does make sense, you can then set it to the appropriate aspect ratio for that film. But oddly enough, they don't support things like 185 to 1. So whatever. I don't know. It's weird.
No,
But goggles.
Goggles. Yeah, moral of the story is goggles. But
You keep going off the goggles.
I know you want to stick to this. But so I'm curious if those of you have done oddball resolutions, not the natural progression of things. Like let's pretend we did a 21 by 9.
I did 1 by 257,000. No one liked it.
A lot of our faculty here, they just naturally kind of think in that 16 by 9 mode. If I had a 21 by 9 screen up there, the first thing they're going to ask me is, I want this to fill the whole screen.
Yeah,
that's the very first thing they're going to ask me. They are going to be completely ignorant as to why that doesn't work, but they're going to demand that their 16 by 9 content fill that 21 by 9 screen. And here we are.
Yes.
So if the PowerPoint,
therein lies the rub that we have
so if
to
their
contend
PowerPoint
with.
is red, then you just get your red Sharpie out and just start coloring in the pixels.
Oh,
on
don't
the
worry.
sides.
It'll stretch.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, and
Go
to me,
redevelop
that's the
your
heart of the
content.
argument right there, is that the most natural content that we already see are already in those aspect ratios we're most comfortable with. Therefore, doing two of them side by side makes the most amount of logical sense.
Correct. And the Trojan horse of when you buy DirectView LCD monitors, those only come in 16 by 9. Yeah, I can get one in a wide. I get it. But
you're not building enough DirectView LED walls, Chris, and wackadoo.
With custom processors behind them. Yes, exactly right. So, and the true Trojan horse for LED walls, as we have all seen now, are the 16 by 9 all-in-one units, which are fantastic. So, anyway,
which run on Android, which is even better.
Which is awesome. So don't plug that shit into your network.
In the middle of
already been. It comes out of the box pre-hacked. Malware is already on it.
Pre-packaged 32 by 9 with an Apple TV.
So anyway, a little bit of news there, just for the fun of that buried bit about the aspect ratio there. So good to see that getting a little more play, because that's the way to go if you want ultra-wide displays.
And don't forget goggles.
And goggles, yes, for your goggles, because everyone needs them. All right, we'll take a quick break, come back, talk about AV over IP encoders only. Don't care about decoders, only encoders and other stuff.
Right.
Stop fighting a tangled web of Ethernet cables and power cords to PoE injectors. Are you sick of your network switches failing to provide enough power when you need them most? Well, buckle up, folks, because we've got something that will blow your socks off. Introducing the latest innovation from the brilliant minds who couldn't quite make it in the world of audio engineering. That's right, we're talking about Gain Sharing POE, the game changer in network switch technology by Independent Amalgamated. Imagine a network switch that not only delivers power over Ethernet, but also dynamically adjusts power distribution based on the needs of all the connected devices. Say goodbye to underpowered devices and hello to maximum efficiency. How does it work, you ask? Well, we've taken our expertise in microphone mixing and digital signal processing and applied it to create a revolutionary power distribution system. With Gain Sharing POE, the fewer devices you have connected, the more power each device gets. It's like a power party where everyone gets VIP treatment. And get this, folks, our patented surge amp technology ensures that power is available to your devices at lightning speed, with just a few milliseconds of delay. It's like magic, but better. So if you're ready to take your network to the next level, look no further than our advanced managed network switch featuring Gain Sharing POE. Because when it comes to power, we've got you covered. Visit our website or call now to get your hands on this cutting-edge technology before it's too late. Don't wait. Upgrade today and join the power revolution. Gain Sharing POE from Independent Amalgamated.
Sad thing is, it almost sounds real.
I stopped.
So many people you're sitting there trying to figure this out in real time. You're like, well, I get it. Well, wait, what? No.
I'll be honest. I stopped listening at surge amp technology. You
don't like our patented surge amp technology, Justin? You know how much it costs to get that patent?
I lost like 20 brain cells after that.
On getting that thing created.
Sounds like an energy drink. A surge amp.
But you know, Justin, people are going to be, if you put that up at Infocom, people will be sitting there going like, wait, is this real or is this fake? I'm not sure. It sounds real.
Like we just create a booth.
It's close.
What if we created a booth?
You want to do a booth with all our fake products?
Independent with all of our commercials. Like how much? That's too much money.
Just set black boxes, just black metal boxes out. What's that?
We need a fundraiser
That's the
campaign.
thing. That's the bring 'em the widget.
Oh, I forgot. We're on a show right now. We're supposed to be okay, we're not just talking. This is what we do behind the scenes. We talk. Anyways.
Oh, you're welcome.
Moving on.
Everybody, you're welcome for that.
Forward.
All right. So first topic for today. We don't have a news story or anything associated with it or a particular product, but we've noticed. Well, there's been a recent rash of products. Let's say.
Yes.
We've noticed a large number of products coming out, or certain, there's a handful of them anyway, for AV over IP specifically, and the advantage is, as I think we'd all understand with AV over IP, is like pretty much infinite flexibility. That's really what you're getting there, is infinite flexibility over more baseband technologies like routers and matrix.
Virtual infinite. Virtually
Just get a
infinite.
gain sharing POE switch and you can go as big as you want. So,
with
Spin out
those
so bad
surge
here.
power amps.
Yeah.
but anyway, we've noticed several manufacturers, many manufacturers, a lot of manufacturers, every manufacturer,
all of them,
who has they're basically going back to the kind of an old school model of a multi-input encoder. So 4, 5, 6 inputs on an AV over IP encoder. And yes, some of them can generate 2 streams at 1080p or 1 at 4K, or some can. I know there's some out there on higher capacity networks can do 4 streams, that sort of thing. So yes, there's some more flexibility there, but they're going back to the old model of a big switcher box at the front end that you plug all your sources into, which kind of defeats the purpose of AV over IP.
That's what I believe.
If you're
here we go. This is going to be this is a bit of a trial here, I think, and I wanted to kick this off because I'm guilty for like wedging this in here in this conversation, because I'm going to bring up the term kit-o parts here, and that does this throw a wrench into that kind of equation where I'm trying to find a very granular thing that I can do and pull from that kit all over the place and use. Now, yes, I could buy whatever the new NVX flavor of the month multi-switching encoder that just announced over AV over IP week, but it starts to feel like I'm throwing a giant switcher and just replacing HD-based-T with AV over IP.
And why wouldn't you be designing it as HD-based-T then? Especially
exactly.
What design needs multiple encoders that have 5 to 6 inputs at every location?
Right.
The
If you're
best
doing
designs.
a classroom and you need multiple inputs,
You know
and
who
one
wants
output,
that?
Go to HD-based-T.
An integrator somewhere who's paid by the percentage of their sales.
Exactly.
That's who wants that.
The box.
So Justin, as an integrator who's paid by the percentage of your sales.
Yeah, explain to me. Why do I need this? Sell it to me.
I won't sell it to you. I don't do sales. I don't have salespeople. We only specify what the client needs.
We just specify stuff and then collect later.
Are you saying
Yeah.
nothing you give is on sale? Is that what you're saying? You're paying premium for
You
all
pay
this
full
stuff?
price.
Yeah.
Okay.
MSRP is
MSRP is
our
the way to
motto.
go.
That's your discount.
That's your discount.
Plus
FU.
points.
Yeah.
Bless.
We're going to get a point system. You collect points. We'll give you a discount next time.
So, am I know.
We're like Kellogg's cereal boxes.
Rip the tops off those bad boys.
Rip the
Trade
tops
them all
off.
in.
Hold on to them. We'll give you a discount in 2032.
Trade them in.
Savings for 30 years.
Yeah, man.
So,
When my whole
Almost got enough for the
business
leather
is
jacket.
based in the Cayman Islands by then.
am I wrong with that philosophy of like one eye per device in that granular AV over IP world? I mean, I'm
I
not
wouldn't say black and white. I can see sometimes needing a 2-input AV over IP encoder, possibly, maybe. But normally, when you're designing AV over IP, it's a 1-to-1 ratio. That would make a lot of sense, because if I have multiple sources in one location, I'm probably going to put something else there and then maybe encode that to an AV over IP anyway, because going back to your standard kit of parts, we've had old switchers that we've used in the past that we're used to. Let's just get 2 separate boxes instead of 1 box.
Right, but wasn't that kind of like the dream that this was all sold under at one point? I'm not saying you don't have 3 or 4 sources in your lectern, podium, whatever it is, and maybe it is easier to have 1 wire going there. That's not my argument. That if I'm going for like simple kit that I can be the most flexible and construct the most amount of useful spaces and have spares that are easy to swap and not be wasting extra inputs, isn't the full granular approach better? Like, I don't know. I'm kind of throwing it on trial. Like, convince me that that's not the way to go here.
If you're asking me, if I have to buy a new box, then it's not my standard kit of parts. It's something new. And now I've expanded my kit of parts. So
now
what the hell are you
part of
doing?
your standard.
Now you have level 7.57.
Yeah, exactly.
And now you're Mark in Oregon.
So Larry brings up a point. He says he was so excited about it, he couldn't let go of the shift key fast enough.
Oh, okay.
He says, what about in active learning rooms where I guess presumably he's talking about you have multiple students at each pod station, whatever, so you could provide them the ability to all connect, and you're still only sending that one stream back. I guess I would ask, why do they all need to plug into the system, though? You can only send one stream, so here's one cable.
Exactly.
Get rid of those cables.
And if you have to do that, put a 4-input switcher there.
Now you're making it worse.
No.
If you have to.
Don't need that.
Yeah, exactly.
I agree. You don't need that.
Don't need it to begin with, and you're better off.
No,
And so, okay. So
I don't know.
That's one of my shopping requirements.
For what?
What, not needing things?
Multi-input.
You want multi? I know.
I want at least 2.
Okay.
I want at least 2.
I'm not going to argue 2.
When
you start hitting 3, 4, 5, now you're starting to get a little crazy.
So
where's the slope start? Is it 2 and then 3. Now we got 27?
3 is the credit, and it starts to go down after 3.
I think 3 is the logical point, but
okay.
I don't see a reason to have the streaming of unused.
So I'm going to call it out just for what it is. The NBX.
You want to save bandwidth?
384. That 4x1 AV over IP switcher and all that stuff, like that new one. This is the one that made me think about this, right? The 2 USB-Cs, the 2
POS.
HDMIs, that whole
POE,
thing.
Jamie, it's pronounced POE.
Yeah.
Sorry, my bad.
And yes, arguably, maybe this could be like the one thing, but then I look at the price and I'm like, it's the same price of buying all those encoders anyway. So I'm not, you're not saving anything.
And for me, I looked at it like I was already kind of pre-switching when I was using, my previous version of AV over IP encoders and decoders, in order, 1, to save bandwidth, and 2, because I didn't need to overspend on that. It was cheaper to buy a pre-switch and then go into one encoder. Now, the visionary one, the Duet, that has 3 in, 1 loop out, and 1 stream out. Perfect.
Okay.
That takes over
it's a good price point.
I'm not going to buy that for every one of my AV over IP encoding solutions.
Yes, you will. Yes, you will.
Yeah.
So the price on it really,
it wasn't bad.
Yeah,
that was very affordable.
To me, it's at that 700. I don't know what people get, right? But it's in that ballpark where it is absolutely the price that I can put it anywhere, and I just know it's going to work and it's going to fulfill all of my needs wherever I put this thing. And I think it performs well. So I really like that. I don't like one-to-ones.
See, my perspective here is the data aggregation perspective on this, right? So the reporting out to your central service, I like seeing endpoint for input, right? Whereas if you start saying, oh, well, programmatically, this box is technically my computer and my dot camera, or whatever your combination is going to be, now your data starts to look weird on
pause. Who is putting dot cams on AV over IP inputs?
Who isn't putting dot cams on AV over IP inputs?
Rephrase that question, Justin.
Why are you choosing to use a dot cam as an input to your system instead of running that son of a bitch via USB?
I gotcha. Okay, so
what are you doing?
That's Larry, and he's going to come fight you.
He's gonna take a throat lozenge, pour honey down his gullet, just so that he has enough vocal cord to come and yell at you.
So Larry will tell you, to your point, Justin, and Larry will tell you that running a baseband output from your document camera gives you the ability to route that signal anywhere for high quality capture and recording and all that fun stuff.
It's on my computer. I could do the same thing.
I agree with you, but there's
you're not wrong.
The output on my computer is an AV over IP.
Refer to the show we did a while ago where we said all you need is a computer. I'm still in that camp. So don't get me wrong. One encoder is all you need. Figure it out from there. And so, but the encoder does not have 4 inputs on it. So that's my answer here. But going back to the data thing, when I look at a room holistically as my status, I want to see all the associated things as all the group of endpoints on there. And so if I'm having to mix and match for usage and all that stuff, now I'm having to be more programmatically tied to that data aggregation than just the device itself and getting its native data out of it. That's kind of why we're leaning towards that granular approach.
Power BI dashboards, then having a one-to-one is easier to track. Yes,
correct.
Absolutely.
And that's my sole kind of approach.
Otherwise, then you got to dig into the actual control system program to determine Well, it was on input 3 on the stream, and then it switched back to input 2, which is the DocCam.
Oh my God, Chris! I'm about to answer your question on chat. This is ridiculous. Hold on, watch this.
It's a
that's why we have a chat, Justin.
I don't.
Holy crap, that's pricey.
That's bullshit.
What? We gotta say it, explain it to people. Like people know.
We're talking how much the multi-encoder dooley boobers are.
Yes. Now that's why I said that's the price of 4 encoders.
Like what?
Now you've discovered how they priced it.
I just don't need that. I don't design systems that way.
See, and that's the thing is like if I have to buy an encoder for every one of my inputs, and we're going to be conservative here, and they're around $500 each, right? That's $2,000 for a set of. We'll go $1,500 for a set of 3, or I can get for less than $1,000 one encoder that has 3 on the front end, and I'm mostly good. Now.
For cheaper, you can get 2 separate boxes, a basic HDMI switch, and a single AV over IP encoder for less money even than the combined box.
There is that, and I don't. Yeah, look, bandwidth conservation and
we don't need to conserve anything anymore. We're past that in our lives. Come on.
is more important than the one-to-one data dashboard because I don't care. Quite frankly,
well, you've sold me. That's a cogent argument, Jamie.
How many times have you pressed this button? Not enough to warrant having the document cavern having its own encoder.
And so we are going to do on a future show. We are going to dive into the how useful are these central aggregator consoles and all this nonsense.
And I think you need to have an approach and jump in and kind of stick to your story. Or you don't, or just don't do it.
Approach. You just don't
shave those buttons right off. You're good to go.
Fight.
But kind of looking at it, there's a service piece to this too. To me, yes, you're going to be doing programming and things but if one fails, it's the simple one replacement versus having to replace the bigger one, reprogram and all that other stuff. So to me, getting as granular as we can, and just having that kit, I can reconstitute and build lots of different places on more of a simple solution versus having to have all these different encoders, decoders out on the shelf to choose from. And don't get me wrong, I like all the things and having all the options, but at a certain point, stocking and keeping all that isn't the dream of a simplified world, or are we going to go just replacing
your world's too simple?
Here's my other long-term support kit of box parts, whatever the hell you want to call it. So
just random box
what
of
happens when these manufacturers stop making this product because nobody's buying it anymore? It's not profitable, and they go back to a one-to-one only. And then let's say somebody like Jamie or whoever has bought 500 of these in 500 classrooms. Now you're like, what are you going to do?
You got to throw them away.
This goes back to, but yes.
Right.
This goes back to my return on investment thing, right? So I only buy this one, right? So I over purchase on this one. I'm using Visionary right now, and I go ahead and buy the Duet model because it gives me all of it for a decent price. And it can go anywhere. If I need it in a 1-to-1 or if I need it in a 3-to-1,
you're okay using it.
It just goes in.
Yeah, I get you.
And it just goes in. And if Visionary stops making them in 2 years, or the codecs get better from somebody else and it's cheaper to do it, next one up. It's all AV over IP. I just unclick one black box and click in the next one, which is why it's important that we start moving towards a standard. Except we never will, because all of these stupid ass companies out there have to create their own version of a codec. Yes, I'm looking at you who just released the freaking one Mark's yelling about.
Yeah, right.
Because it doesn't work with anybody else's.
Jamie, they all have to have a proprietary codec, because otherwise you could just plug them in. And it's wild west. Who's watching that? Cats and dogs living together. It's mass hysteria.
But I'm also looking at the labor on this. For 500 rooms to swap out a 3-input AV over IP encoder to a 1-to-1, there's a lot of labor and work to do that. It's not just
you're not
buying
wrong.
a different box.
I'm curious. What's this concern about having to swap stuff out?
I've seen over and over again over the years, manufacturers make a box and then stop making it after a year. So let's say Visionary stops making the 2-input one.
Why would I remove
starts
it?
making a 4-input because it died, and now you have to replace it. But
they sent out the new firmware that killed it. It's done.
But if it dies and I have to replace it, I'm not replacing 500 of them.
You replace the one. right?
Well, you eventually will because they're all going to die.
Oh, so you have a bunch of immersive boxes. Yeah, those die all at once.
That's what I'm saying. This shit ain't lasting forever, y'all. I mean, you got to fix it at some point.
It only has to last 15 years.
Unless your name's Chris, that just hops around a lot.
Come see all my quick media rooms. Still chugging along.
So, but let's go to the other side of this thing.
I'm kidding. Down to like one of those.
This 4x1 version, right? Is it like? Would you build around this moving forward?
We don't have replacement cycles,
like,
Larry.
Yeah.
So
what's the value of this? Like, to me, this looks like a miniature DMPS in a weird way.
So here's where I think there's some value to this. And Jamie brought it up a minute ago. Is like the limited cabling, limited bandwidth. I see something like this having practical value in retrofit scenarios. Okay. I'm putting something into a room that already exists, and it's only got 2 cables run to that location. I can put this box in and get 3 or 4 inputs on it, but the other ones I have to put 2.
Smell like
HD base T. Use HD base T.
Or you can use HD base T.
I don't have to do anything.
Or I'll use the same frickin' shielded Cat 5e cables that ran HD base T and are running on this one because I don't care. So
just put it in transmit receive mode and be done, and just say, "Hey, I got AV over IP."
So,
walk off. Give me the badge.
That's not AV over IP though.
But how am I going to say I'm all AV over IP because that's the future? Right. Unless I have this box. So no, you're not wrong. I mean, HD base T still has a place and still has a huge place in a lot of what we do. There is a fundamental concept that a lot of people have that they have to stop using HD base T because it's old and AV over IP is the future, and that's absolutely wrong. Keep doing your HD base T stuff; it works fine.
Yeah, I would rather do HD base T when it makes sense because I don't have another box at the projector in my standard class.
Until you get the weird HD base T ones that don't want to play well with the projectors. So.
Well, I don't buy those.
There's that.
Well, you should, because that's where the mystery comes in.
Jamie, you have fun with that monoprice stuff.
Now, in that version that we saw, and that Aaron's kind of responding, like it's that response, yes. The USB piece of this had a little bit of extra in it. It wasn't just the video or just the AV piece. They are claiming that data backend piece, which I think was actually part of the story, but that's not really in their sales pitch as much. Because I am interested in that. The full USB-C as
Jamie's
AV
going to tell you
and data.
Years ago, so.
We've talked about it before. Like, I want that elusive data set to bring all those other pieces back as well.
When you're talking about the USB data, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Better. I'll just say I am pleased to see more encoders, decoders, whatever out there with USB-C, true USB-C DisplayPort alt mode, some with multi-stream transport, some without. Because that's the only one we should be supporting. And anybody else who has devices that doesn't do DisplayPort alt mode, they should be punched in the face and thrown in the river, and then also throw their computer after them. I'm sick and tired of the DisplayPort one or the USB-C where they come in and like, look, it's got USB-C. I'm like, oh yeah, which of the 7 flavors? And now I have to deal with that crap. So
it's power only.
Yeah, this is power only USB.
You can always charge your iPhone.
This is only for 30-watt charging and USB 2.0 data. You figure it out.
Yeah. Right.
Too much of that nonsense
plus. Need all of it. So, but I don't know. Like, it just felt like we were going back to like, here's your big
Let me ask this
switcher
question
again.
Just going to throw this one out there.
Throw it out there.
So these devices that have multiple inputs like this, why aren't all the inputs USB-C DisplayPort alt mode?
Because where's Justin going to put his dock camera?
It's just too much.
I guarantee somebody during some sort of product development meeting said, well, I've got Blu-ray player. That person should have been thrown in the river.
So you don't.
Strap that person to a small rocket and fire them out into space. Because you can convert down easily with a super cheap adapter to go from USB-C.
Adapters, I don't know.
Okay, what's the alternative? I've got HDMI in, which can't be, there are ways to do it, but cannot be easily converted up to DisplayPort alt mode. So I'm just saying, why not roll down? So
yes, there's a lot of stuff out there with HDMI on it still.
I still think, back to the first question, and then I just saw the pricing on that dude. I'm like, holy crap. I can get 2 of the other ones.
Exactly.
There you go.
I see there's a lot, to me.
2.5 of the other ones on my pricing.
There is a lot of use for this, especially in places where you have to pay per data jack, where you may only have one lectern of equipment. And so you might have 2 or 3 displays around the room, and it's showing the same thing everywhere. Because HD base T now becomes a problem in that point. Fine, there's some use for this. I don't think it doesn't fit into the standard kit of parts. Like, I tried to find one, 2 or 3 inputs, standard kit of parts, let's go. It fits almost everywhere I need it to go.
Right there. I'm with you, Joe. I'm on team no wires.
No. I'm going to take it one step further. Joe is halfway right. So Joe just said, why not go wireless? Don't worry about wired connections.
Oh, my God.
No appliance, though. No appliance.
Half correct.
Yeah.
Go to session, not wireless. So,
yeah, we're not doing... We're full on
correct.
here.
We're not
get rid of all those
wireless boxes.
That's right.
They're trash.
Go to session, which is what he's getting at. Is start a Zoom call, Teams call, Google call, whatever. Join that. So yeah. Aaron, you're right. You get a high quality 15 frames per second experience, but no one cares. So.
I like 120 hertz on my meetings.
It's like all the people who need 444 on their systems. Yeah, that's what I mean. So.
Wait, you don't?
It's the best. Anyways.
We all need HDR for our displays. It's 6 years old. Doesn't do that. So anyway,
we have to have it. This PowerPoint.
But anyway, Jamie, you're right. There are places where this makes sense. It doesn't. It's not. If Mark's dream world of everything is the same, and he's got the same model, even decoder encoder that can be switched at a reboot. So we don't have to worry about that. I get where you're coming from, but in retrofit spaces where bandwidth or where the data costs, or you're putting in stuff and I need 3 things at this end, I only need 1 cable because it's not mission critical or whatever. There are use cases for this.
The real question is this particular unit from them actually communicate with the receivers that they have, or do you have to buy a different special receiver just for this?
Oh, a manager of managers.
Is this like NVX Lite and NVX Plus? Is it
I think it's just switching on the front end of the stream.
5K NVX.
I'm just being a jackass. Is what I'm really.
I don't put it past them, but
no, it shouldn't work the same way. It should be intercompatible.
Yeah, but I think really my biggest hang up is that you can't intermix these things.
Is it still only outputting 1 stream though?
I didn't catch that, but if it's 2, it's going to be 1080.
4x1.
Who's doing more than 1080 and why? And here's one person yelling at the car stereo again.
I'm doing 5K because the box can do it. It says it right there.
I set all the edits to the top of the bar. Yeah.
Because
also, I have trouble connecting my Mac.
I get a gigabit to this desk thing. I'm going to take 890 megs of it right away.
The saddest part of this box is it can also be a decoder. God help you, whoever the hell is buying this as a decoder and using it just as a decoder.
If you do it in wait,
HDR 10 plus
in decode mode, does it also work for local switching?
Yeah, it'll do a 4x1 with a switch. Yeah,
okay, that's fine.
Yeah,
I get what
it's
they're doing.
Still way too much money.
There are use cases, and there's someone yelling at the car right now.
Oh yeah, I mean it's a fancy Swiss Army knife of sort, but I just don't know where it fits in my kit.
So.
Yeah, I will not be purchasing one.
Now, to Jamie's point, there's other manufacturers who make things like this. I have a handful of the ones he's talking about from Visionary, the 3x1s. They're great. The delta on cost from a 3x1 to a 1x1 is less than $100 for me. Right. So, whoop-de-kip. The close to 100 control processors I have out there from QSys are all 3x2 with dual encode on the outside. So, I can get a lot of flexibility on that. I don't use it that way, but the flexibility's there. It's also doing a lot of other stuff too. So in that sense, the more expensive box is doing way more than just sitting there as an encoder or decoder, but the capability's there. So I think there's a lot of capability for things like this. And I can't remember who just said it a minute ago, but like the Swiss Army knife approach is really what we're looking at here. This is another thing to have in your back pocket, in your arsenal for those oddball scenarios. It may not go into every room. It may not go behind every display, but there are times where you say, oh, glad I have this because we're doing this in the such and such room and there's only 2 data pulled to that location and I can plug this in and get it done and everybody's happy. Or just do HD based.
Yet to have that happen to me.
Ever? You guys have data everywhere?
No, I guess I do logic.
Have you ever had this system like long ago where you're like, I'm going to put this in because they're going to expand into it one day? Have you ever had like it's going to give them room for growth? Have you ever had that whole thing? Like that philosophy? Yeah,
I wanted to murder the past Justin for doing that.
Right, because that's how like the DMPSs of the world when they roamed the earth long ago. Exactly. That's how they came to be. Right? They're going to they can add extra inputs when they get there. It's like, how many fucking inputs are we adding here? What's going on? Like,
as a designer, and I've proven this to be true over the course of multiple systems, the more boxes you have in a system to complete it, the cheaper it is. The less boxes you have in a system, the more expensive it is.
Your metric of boxes confuses me.
Try it out.
Try it out.
For you designers out there, keep track of how many boxes and how many power plugs you have and how cheap it is breaking things out.
What's the top number you've done?
We just We just went through this as an example. It is cheaper for me to buy an HDMI switch that's 4x1 or 3x1 and put a 1-to-1 encoder on it than it is to buy that son of a bitch.
And yes,
it's way cheaper. So it's 2 boxes is cheaper than 1 box.
And in my rough math, I would tend to agree. Because when you start getting down to the all-in-one boxes, the all-in-wonders, you are paying a premium for it to do everything.
Design your systems to only do what it needs to do, and it's going to be more boxes, but it's cheaper. And then you buy these all-in-wonder kits that are thousands of dollars. You have 1 or 2 boxes that run your back-end system, but it's more expensive and,
Isn't there some like overall gestalt where the sum is greater than the whole of the parts?
Yes.
Depends on your scalability and how many classrooms and systems you have on campus, and it gets into that concept. So,
but Justin, also the all-in-one boxes, especially the 4RU all-in-wonder monstrosities, that cost way more, so it must be better.
We can't. Well, that's the thing is we can't.
It's got a DSP on
those. Yeah, our departments.
They don't have a DSP. Not a single one of them has a DSP on it. They all have a baby's first mixer.
Yes, the cost of labor. Remember that first module for those who programming that massive ass long run-on module? How fun was that to program?
This needs 2.5 minutes to boot up. So update your firmware and then go to lunch and then come back and then it should be rebooting.
That's great.
And, yeah,
2.5 minutes. That's fast. Come enjoy my. Come enjoy my low power Juniper switches that are 7 minutes before they fire POE to everything.
Is 7 minutes you exaggerating or is it?
No, it is those things. The low power Juniper switches.
The low power,
because they don't have any fans, so they have low power processors. It's like a 7-minute boot cycle, and if you have stuff on the backside that's POE powered, then those boot up. So
that's like a third of a class,
which is exactly what people say when I have an ancient campus full of nonsense, and they're like, "Yes, if I reboot this, I know it's going to fix it, but I lose 15 minutes of my class."
Yeah,
and I get it. I'm like, dude, I didn't spec any of those, but
sure you did.
All sorts of nonsense. Yes, I spec a lot of Junipers from 2013. Great.
So, Mark, did we?
No, I think I think people are leaning one way or the other about like the validity of these types of things.
I think we got people thinking about it.
Yeah, and I think that's the whole the thought exercise here, right? And so, as to why I think the granular approach is best, but I mean, we could do a whole on trial about this, but I just wanted to get the pulse of the group here on what we've felt about these types of
HD-based T's answer.
But anyway, Chris,
I think it's a slippery slope if we start seeing this from more and more manufacturers. If they start focusing all their energies on basically a mini all-in-wonder box, I think they're going the wrong way.
That's the wrong approach. Yeah.
Speaking of weird things you have on your campus, Chris.
Yes, we're going to take a quick break and we're going to come back and talk about what we call like sunk cost fallacy with regards to free stuff. And what's it cost to actually try to use that free stuff that was never really installed in the first place? Installed correctly in the first place. So
okay,
there we go.
Yeah, you guys are going to love this one. So let's take a quick break, come back. In the meantime, we're going to hear from our own new endeavor of coming to your campus and ruining your systems for you.
Hey, you! Yeah, you with the weird AV issues that need fixing. Listen up, because this is the last time I'm going to say it. Are you tired of your electronics acting like they were put together by a bunch of monkeys with soldering irons? Well, guess what? You're in luck, pal. Introducing Independent Amalgamated AV Integrations, where we barely meet industry standards and still manage to stay in business. Look, we know you have a choice when it comes to who handles your AV, but let's be real here. Are you really going to trust some slick-talking, overpriced company with your precious gadgets? I didn't think so. At Independent Amalgamated AV Integrations, we promise to half-heartedly install your stuff with just enough competence to not get sued. And if you're lucky, it might even work for a little while. So, if you're ready to settle for mediocrity and save a few bucks in the process, give us a call at 555-GET-OK or visit independentamalgamated.com. And remember, at Independent Amalgamated AV Integrations, we're just good enough to not completely ruin your day. Maybe.
They'll spec all sorts of multi-input.
They're doing good work out there.
I didn't think we were taking money from integrators.
We're trying to take money.
That should be
as
your
much
real
from integration.
Justin, our parent company, Independent Amalgamated, has many like fingers in many pies.
We have lots of dollars.
Well-diversified portfolio of offerings.
This is a multi-dollar operation.
Multi-dollar operation.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So for this topic, and it's somewhat prescient that Jamie, I think you're the one who mentioned the idea of no, it was just to talk about overbuilding older systems to allow for future expansion. So it's a great thing we have all these DMPSs out here with the ability to have lots of additional space.
Yes. We're going to use those inputs one day, Chris.
So let me tell you how those inputs got used. Mm-hmm. So during the nonsense a few years ago when everyone got free money from the government and many schools just kept buying the stuff they were buying previously and just did more of what they already did. And so there was no problems and everybody was happy. And yes, there were supply chain issues and all that. But for the most part, your stable of common kit of parts is, with a few slight variations here and there, pretty much the same. Other people bought what they could find at the time or just kind of bought the first thing that showed up on Amazon or CDW or B&H or wherever they were buying from. Mm-hmm. Some schools just called their local integrator and said, "We don't know what we need, so come fix all this." And they bought a new yacht. And by
some schools, do you mean yours?
And so my school took the yacht approach, and I got close to 100 plus rooms that got cameras and microphones and all that good stuff, and that was fine. And we were hybrid enabled, and everyone was able to keep on teaching, and we're all happy. Here's the challenge. So all of these rooms got updated. They all got COVID-enabled or hybrid-enabled teaching for COVID stuff.
COVID-fueled classrooms.
But they added cameras and microphones. That was kind of the mantra. Add hybrid capability, cameras and mics. They didn't touch any of the underlying stuff. So that 6-year-old AV system is now a 10-year-old AV system. That sort of thing. So what was in there was just left there. In places where they couldn't even physically fit it in there, they had to kind of put like a little pony rack on the side. So,
sidecar.
It's this little sidecar there with a different key. That's fun.
Still got that 16 by 16. You had two 16 by 16s now, right?
Yeah. So they just added another chassis right next to it. Link those together. So because that's just for the 17th input. But
right.
Why buy anything less than a 16 by 16?
Yeah.
But here's the challenge we're running into. These rooms almost 4 years on, are in need of refresh. But the cameras and microphones are only 3 or 4 years old. So why don't we just repurpose those? Well, that sounds great. Until you start getting into this challenge of, is it worth really trying to repurpose these when A, they don't fit how we do rooms now. So it's not, even if we rebuild the whole system but use that camera, it's a different model. It's not connected the same way, etc. And then that means we're going to need to make modifications and now have another slightly modified standard for, yes, that's a standard room with the following 27 changes on it because it's now different to support reusing those cameras and microphones, which are only, again, 3 years old, but the underlying system is 4, 5, 6, 7 years old, so it's got to go.
Right.
Here's the fun part. Like I said, I got about 100 of these rooms, which means 2 cameras in a room. I've got close to 200.
That number is important. 100 of these rooms is why the scale and magnitude of this is
200 cameras.
Which means I have about 200 cameras that are like this. Now, most of these are Vadio cameras. Vadio makes fine cameras, no problems there. Most of these are HD base T cameras.
There it is.
Oh, Justin just said HD base T is the best transport ever made. It was the 11th commandment. I saw it. So these cameras are HD base T cameras. Okay, that's fine, which means they're run to an HD base T receiver. Or
were they?
They're run directly into the DM inputs on a DMPS. Well, okay, the inputs were there, but that means there's no receiver, which means if I replace that DMPS, there ain't no receiver there, which means now I got to buy a receiver or something. One step worse than that is 2 steps still to go. The DMPS then was doing the switching between cameras, DM1, DM2. Okay, that's great. One of the HDMI outputs was then used as the
feed a mage wall or something,
the converter.
Like that. Yeah.
But to your point, it needed to then go to a USB encoder, Inogeny, Magewell, whatever was used at the time, to convert for USB for Zoom, Teams, etc. So I'm using 2 inputs and 1 output on my DMPS, which has to go. Because of the age of that thing, and it still runs on kerosene. But that means I now need 2 boxes there to convert all this stuff. So The question is, yes, and what I've been doing is I've been bouncing ideas off of people for the last couple of days. There are some little widget boxes out there, and I have one from Matt Lona and one from Kramer on the way to test out, which in theory can receive both of these camera feeds, can send the commands back upstream to the cameras to drive them, and then can convert that out to HDMI and then go back into the little USB encoder, and I can do that. But is it worth going down that road to have yet another slightly different version of my classrooms to reuse these cameras?
Or you have 200 of them, make it a new standard.
Or I send them to WKU and just install them everywhere.
A new standard system. My quick answer to this is no.
I don't want HD-based T cameras here.
I don't want HD-based T cameras either, but I got 200 of them. So
I don't know if the value is there. And honestly, if you're hitting that 3-4 year mark, I think you've got your utility out of these investments. It's time to start. I'm not saying they can't last longer. I'm just saying I don't know if you need to kick this can down that road further.
If I was Chris, I would have to buy a widget and just make it work, and it's just a new standard because it would be a budget money thing.
But are the rooms needing update? Or are you like piecemealing these updates, Chris?
No, so the rooms that, like I said, when they got cameras and mics, the underlying systems were untouched.
Right. You went in with the COVID layer. Just painted on ours.
Yeah. It is.
So the stuff that was 4 or 5 years old 3 or 4 years ago is still, or is now, I got to do the math on that, is now what, 7 or 8 years old. So it's got to go. The cameras are still presumably serviceable. Now, to your point, they're 3 years old, coming up on 4 years old. So are they reaching end of life for the camera? That's early for a camera. It should be fine, but to Justin's point, if I had 10 rooms like this, it'd be different. I have 100 rooms like this.
Right. You know what? Honestly, if the infrastructure worked out, what I would probably do to keep my standard design essentially the same infrastructure-wise, instead of using SDI on my cameras, I would probably use the HDMI out and get the cheapest HDMI transmitter and just run that into a Magwell and hit USB. If that's what you're trying to do.
But so instead of buying HD decode, it's effectively the same thing.
Instead of buying a new camera with your upgrade, leave the camera there. Forget HD-based T.
Let me ask this question, Chris. Do you think those cameras are going to last a full cycle? Are you going to get another refresh cycle out of those cameras?
They're not going to. So no, that's a good point. Those cameras will not last, in my opinion, another 8 years.
There you go.
I don't think they're going to be.
To me, they're going. You're getting rid of them.
So let me ask this question: if you guys had a bunch of 10 plus, let's say 10 to 12 year old cameras, what's our comfortability on those still being fully operational?
10, 12 years? No way.
Yeah. Which is what they're going to be at the end of the second cycle.
I had cameras that are still functioning at that, but I don't want to go down that road as like a hope and a prayer, because that's the fear is you're going to have to go back and invest time you don't have to upgrade these things anyway. Right? So you're going to be out that cost. You're going in the room to do this upgrade now. Do it now.
I was going to save you labor to take all that shit out, to be honest, down the road. Total cost of ownership.
At some point, so whether I replace them now or replace them down the road, I'm going to have to do it at some point. Yes, right. You're not wrong there. So,
but how much pressure does that create on the other things that you have backlogged you have to get to? If you have to now carve out more time to go back and redo this, does that have more of an impact on your operations versus just you already have these rooms scheduled for their upgrades? You're in there, do the work. Yes, you're losing 3 years of potential use on these cameras, give or take, but that time and that energy and that's the hardest part. I'd love to do stuff. Getting access to rooms.
The backup plan is to repurpose those cameras elsewhere in systems that don't have cameras now. So they're going to have to purchase
using HD-based T
or using HDMI or something. But
HDMI would be the better answer.
But you're not going to get control over that. You're going to have to run
2 Cat 6. Yeah.
So you can use Ethernet over HDMI.
Oh yeah, let me just embed that. I'll do it all over CEC commands. Yeah. It works great. So I'm going to do all the cameras over IR, and then we'll solve that problem. So now Larry suggested replacing half. So keep half as spares because that extends the lifespan. So I will replace one camera in each room, and then the other one will be brand new. So
that's not complicated.
Yes. No, that's the way I'm leaning now.
It's not a bad approach.
Replace one camera, or do you mean the half and half?
Like half and
half.
Now
you're having to commit twice as much time to this.
Well, you just remove the student.
Do half the rooms, not half the cameras. Do half the rooms.
Right. Do half the cameras.
So that you don't have to visit every damn room. Like, what's more valuable, time or money? And then once you decide that,
I get paid in time, so yeah.
Well, I don't know. I don't get paychecks that way. So that's your pay units in Wyoming. You got to figure out what's more valuable to you as a university. Is it time or is it money?
We have similar
5 to 10 years out, and then figure it out.
So we had that similar investment strategy, right? We put the kit in there, we put the COVID layer on, and things moving along, and we did rooms that we knew were going to come up in this investment cycle, right? We have to kind of figure that out, and we're having to answer the same question where it's like, we're going to probably move to replace them. They're getting them in the proposals. It's all there. Yes, there's use, but I would rather retain those ones that are good, and I know they're not HD-based T, that I can use those as spare and to enable spaces elsewhere. I would probably not repurpose any of these cameras you have. I would probably put them out the pasture.
eBay.
So right now what I'm leaning towards is when we do rooms, we do everything soup to nuts, and you do the room as a new room. So it is a new space. We replace everything you need to. Now, yes, if the screen is good and the ceiling speakers are fine, whatever. So, by the way, please... What the heck was that noise?
I guess
Justin is printing everything.
He's got
He's printing more stuff.
Go get that. Read it live.
Yep.
I think it's her passport renewal. Hold on.
Read that. It's important.
Then read it. All of it.
All right.
Social security number, bank accounts.
But that still leaves me with this giant deployment of cameras that I could potentially use in oddball scenarios around campus. I just don't know if I trust doing that in a space that would be new if they don't have a camera, to say, well, here's a camera, and in 3 years when it craps out, they're like, we just got this camera. What the hell?
What was the rough estimate on those cameras when they were new? Give or take. Correct first number, correct amount of zeros.
The cost? I don't have the numbers in front of me. They're going to be like 2 or 3 grand.
See, to me, the camera I'm replacing with that is a third of the price it was when it first went in. You have reduced the cost of that space overall.
The camera I'm buying now is $812 or something.
Exactly.
So to me, you're justified.
He's justified over there.
Justification.
That way.
Yeah.
That's justified.
Yeah. I don't know. That's the time and aggravation and having to coordinate to go back to that is the bigger risk, in my opinion.
Well, and it is setting us up for potential future support issues when that thing down the road when that dies. So,
well, not if you don't work there anymore.
Well,
I see. So I'm going to get fired long before that. Yeah.
So. Then it's not a problem.
Yeah, we'll fix that problem. Not the way I quit.
Right after he buys 200 new cameras.
Exactly.
Good luck.
I mean, I understand there's infrastructure. You're going to have to address that infrastructure issue as well. Maybe.
That's the other issue. Is they have a single cable pulled to it, which I understand from that concept of single cable. It's
it's already handled. Yeah. You got your single cable. It's already a Category 6 cable.
You going all streaming on this?
You're
Jamie?
assuming that those cameras or those cables are pulled and terminated correctly.
Oh.
Okay.
Let me just use this phrase: zip tied to plumbing or to sprinkler pipes.
They're future proof. You can't get those out of there in the future.
So
that's not structural.
They were not inspected.
You're going to be deploying cameras the Jamie way of single cable. You're done.
Just run that NDI layer straight to the computer. It's fine.
Amen, brother.
Here we go.
Happening.
Here we go.
Anyway, so just an added wrinkle on this as we wrap up our show. The added wrinkle is these same rooms, these 100 rooms that got microphones as well. So they all have a full-on, full-rack DSP with a semi-proprietary but possible open standard transport for their digital microphones all over the place. So, yes, I have...
You're going to grow into it one day, Chris.
Let's just say I have now between 500 and 600 dingle golf ball microphones all over campus, which again work fine for now, but how long do we expect those to work? So they're going to be out of cycle.
They are. How do you do it? Everybody out there is dealing with this out of cycle thing right now. So more pain and suffering for all of you.
Oh.
We are always out of cycle, so it's normal.
Just continuously out of cycle.
That should be a topic.
Wait, what?
So you bought this crap in 2020. It's 5 years later, 4.5 years later.
How's it working out for you?
How's it going?
That worked out great for us.
All your Zoom rooms?
All your little dock cameras on a stick?
The dock cam.
The dock cams on a stick?
$100 dock cams that we put everywhere. And then what happened is people that actually needed good quality, hybrid or whatever teaching models, they asked for upgrades. And then the ones that didn't need the dock cams, we never had to go back and...
They asked for upgrades and realized they just need to get their LMS right.
Yeah.
Love it.
All right. Well, there we go. I think that was a definitive answer to maybe do something.
Get rid of them.
Turn them into compost. Larry's answer of get rid of one of every two in the rooms and just, move forward that way.
Technology compost.
I don't think it's compost.
Everything is compost.
Here's the next question. What do you do when you take ceiling speakers out of a large venue and I have 200 little...
Why do you do that?
Because they're 20 years old. And
you just put the new ones next to them.
Do they still make sound?
Yeah.
Not good sound. Have you heard like your phone turned up really loud? It's basically that. So
I listen to my phone like this all the time.
No, these speakers will be great for you. I'll send them all to you. All right. Well, we'll be back next week with more nonsense. See you then. Thanks, everyone. Well, we've managed to ruin yet another episode of AV Super Friends Off the Rails. You can contact us with questions, topic ideas, or general complaints at mailbag@avsuperfriends.com. If you complain loud enough, we might just invite you on the show.
Nice work, everyone. Sharp broadcast. Really good. Everyone on the floor as well. Really a lot of hustle. I liked it.
The opinions expressed by the AV Super Friends are solely those of the individuals and do not represent their respective institutions, organizations, companies, or clients.